On today's episode of Time About the Movies, we begin the month of April off with April Fool's Day, and there are certainly no April Fools like we've had the last 3 months on this particular year in 2011. We got our first movie here, which is probably the lesser of the 4 films we have here, but I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. Russell Brand starring as the Easter Bunny in the family adventure Hop. We have Jake Gyllenhaal starring alongside Michelle Monaghan and Vera Farmiga in Source Code. We have Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne starring in the first film in the Insidious series, and James Gunn, 15 years before he took on the directing efforts of Superman, directed his first superhero movie with Super, with Dwight Schrute as the superhero in question, along with Juno, Liv Tyler, and Kevin Bacon. So let's take a look and see what we got here on this April 1st, 2011 here on Time About the Movies.
From the creators of Despicable Me.
It's time to take matters into our own hands.
Yeah, we don't have hands, per se.
The plot has hatched.
What are you up to? It's called a coup d'etat, which is a French for coup d'etat.
And the battle for Easter
We the bosses.
begins.
The more sensitive chicks in the room, they want to avert their eyes.
Hop, rated PG, in theaters April 1st.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. We are taking a look at the 4 films of April 1st, 2011. And our first movie that we have here is Hop, the first official film from Illumination Entertainment after Despicable Me put them on the map. And certainly does not feel like an Illumination Entertainment movie, which I'm willing to bet that Illumination probably had zero to do with this movie except for the opening logo. And that's about it. Because honestly, when you look at this movie, you can't really tell it's them, but in the film, Hop stars the voices of Russell Brand as Evie the Easter Bunny, Hugh Laurie's son, who'd rather drum in a band than be like his father. You have James Marsden as Fred O'Hare, a human who is out of work and wishes to become the next Easter Bunny himself, and the voice of Hank Azaria as Carlos, who's an evil chick who plans to take over the Easter organization. So you can look at the trailers for this, and you can pretty much tell this was supposed to be the Easter answer to something like the Santa Claus, and in some ways, it does kind of work from the visual look of the movie, which looks impressive overall. I mean, this is I believe this was Rhythm and Hughes Animation that did this. The studio, the visual studio that did Alvin and the Chipmunks and a couple of other movies in particular. But the overall visual look of the Easter location, which is on the Easter Island, which I think is a pretty clever little twist there, is very well done. And rarely do we see a movie about this type of thing other than Christmas movies, Thanksgiving movies, Halloween movies. You get a couple of Valentine's movies here and there to try to do something like this. And now you have one for Easter, which, yeah, there's a dozen of TV specials around Easter in general, but there's never been that theatrical movie that's about Easter like this until we got this movie. And they were setting this up kind of to be the big Easter. This is supposed to be like the symbol of Easter. This is supposed to be like Evie was supposed to be like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for the Easter season, and sad to say it didn't work out that way. Not to say the movie didn't do well. It did very well at the box office and did good business overall until, of course, Easter happened and then it completely dropped off the face of the earth. But as far as the film itself goes, it's fine. I mean, it's a fun movie for kids. It's definitely a very flawed movie, but for the kids, I think they get a lot of enjoyment out of it, per se, and a decent cast overall here. I think Russell Brand's doing a good job playing the role of E.B., and Hank Azaria in one of many movies we'll have this year where, you know, he's not doing a whole lot of the jokes, he's not getting a lot of good jokes in here, but the jokes overall really aren't that strong, but he is really good in the movie. He's actually one of the funnier things about the movie that made me laugh out loud, because he plays the bad guy in this, but he also plays the sidekick too, and his sidekick sounds like Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons, and it makes sense, because of course he's Chief Wiggum on The Simpsons, but sometimes you get a good joke here and there, but most of the jokes are kind of your typical kid stuff, but then you get those jokes that are kind of amusing, like, you know, when E.B. goes to Hollywood, the first place he goes to is the Playboy Mansion, and, you know, he talks to Hugh Hefner. It's just like, hey, I'm a bunny. You live with the Playboy bunnies in the mansion. I should be allowed in. And they actually got Hugh Hefner to do that. And You know, I did like, it has one gross out joke that I think is actually kind of amusing. Him pooping out the jelly beans, and James Marsden going like, okay, so you're having you put poop candy. Like, it's a gross out joke, but it's actually a gross out joke that actually kind of works for this. I even liked a little bit about David Hasselhoff, the running gag with him in this movie. I think there is a lot of fun stuff in this movie that does work for the most part. Not everything about it works overall. There are a lot of big flaws. Like, the story is kind of predictable. You can kind of figure out everything that's going to happen. And, you know, the whole thing with EB pooping candy, I used to think that was a big flaw to the movie where, you know, you can never figure it out. And it's just like, you know, for what it was, it's really just a one-off joke in particular, because it's something where it's just kind of like, you know, they mention it once. It's not like a big running gag in the movie. I mean, it's not like what we just saw with the naked guy with the coffee cup that's all over the place. Like, it's not like that's what, like, something like that's fine that they never explain. It just randomly happens. And I put that to this here because it's only brought up one time in the movie, and for what it is, I'm not gonna lie, it was a good gag. But the big problems, I think, in particular, is that there is a lot of really good talent in this movie, and sadly, kind of like with the jokes, they're really not given a whole lot to do. I mean, James Marsden can be really good. You got a cast also includes Gary Cole, Elizabeth Perkins, Kaylee Cuoco, Chelsea Handler. The lines they're given here are so cringeworthy, and God help them, they're trying their best to salvage what they can with this, and they just can't pull it off. Like, there's definitely a lot of lines in here that should be funny, but just, they never really make it work overall. Probably my biggest flaw with the entire movie, honestly, is the climax where, you know, Carlos takes over the island, becomes the new Easter Bunny, and then just out of the blue, he turns into this random chick-bunny hybrid, which I guess happens when you turn into the Easter Bunny. So, yeah, if James Marsden probably saw that, and he'd probably be like, you know, I'm having some second thoughts about becoming the Easter Bunny, and because it's never mentioned how this works. Nothing about that makes any sense at all. It doesn't even look that good, to be honest with you. It's just kind of like, what was that even doing in this movie? And again, I really don't think this is the same company that made Despicable Me. It really does not feel like anything that that their animation is known for is in this movie, except for the opening logo. That's about it. It straight up looks like Alvin and the Chipmunks, which, yeah, this is done by the same people who made that movie. You know, this is the same people that did Garfield. Hell, they were about to do Life of Pi when they were going bankrupt. I mean, Life of Pi has outstanding visuals to that movie, and yet they still shut it down for no reason whatsoever. Like, what exactly did Illumination do on here? The only thing I can think of is that the writers from Despicable Me, Cinco Paul and Ken Dario, are also the writers on here, so maybe that's their excuse to have it done by Illuminate, to say, hey, let's put Illumination's name in the credits, because other than that, though, there's no other reason why this movie should be connected. Excuse me. I'm good. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's no indication that this film should be an Illumination production whatsoever, because, like, yeah, nothing else about the movie, it feels Illumination-esque. I think as a film for kids, it's fun, and I think they'll get a kick out of it. For the adults, yeah, it's definitely a movie where you're going to be really questioning the logics of this, and there really isn't a lot of funny stuff in the movie, really, in particular, to give it that boost for the adults to really get into it. But, I mean, it beats the heck out of the Santa Claus sequels. I would rather watch this than watch Santa Claus 2 or 3 again. 2, maybe not so much. 3, yeah, definitely I would watch 3 again, now that I think about it, but yeah, this movie isn't that bad, but it's definitely strictly a kids movie. A harmless kids movie for the most part, but harmless nonetheless. I think you can show it to kids every Easter, and they're not going to get super by it. It is what it is. It delivers what it promises, but for the adults, you're probably not going to get a kick out of it, per se, So yeah, with that said, like I said, this weekend overall is definitely a lot better. That was the weak link of the weekend. Now let's get to the really good stuff. We're starting off with a really damn good movie that some of you may have not even heard of. A little film called Toy Boat. I'm gonna get through this, damn it. A little film called Source Code. Good lord. How is it that I can't say the word called?
My mission.
A bomb exploded on a train outside of Chicago, killing everyone on board. The source code will send you back before the explosion. If you find the bomber, the next attack can be prevented. You'll have 8 minutes.
For Captain Coulter Stevens, every passenger is a suspect.
Find a bomb, and you'll find the bomber.
We should get off this train.
You're kind of freaking me out.
And every second counts. Source Code, rated PG-13, in theaters April 1st.
Source Code is a really damn good movie. The story is that you have a decorated soldier played by Jake Gyllenhaal who wakes up in the body of an unknown man. He discovers he's part of a mission to find the bomb of a Chicago commuter train in an assignment unlike any he's ever known. He learns that he's part of a government experiment called the Source Code, a program that enables him to cross over into another man's identity in the last 8 minutes of his life. With a second, much larger target threatening to kill millions in downtown Chicago, Coulter relives the incident over and over again, gathering clues each time until he solves the mystery of who is behind the bombs and prevents the next attack. The cast also includes Michelle Monaghan, Vera Farmiga, and Jeffrey Wright. This was directed by Duncan Jones, and Duncan Jones has made a lot of really good movies in his career. He did this, he did Moon a couple years prior, which was really good. It's strange because this was the last really good movie he did, because his next film was Warcraft, which wasn't terrible, but this was back when most people still had trouble making a good video game adaptation, and there was a really good video game adaptation that came out that summer in the Angry Birds movie, and Warcraft was supposed to be the best video game movie ever made, and some might say it was, but back then, really think about what kind of video game movies we were getting back then. He also did Mute, which I barely remember, and I don't think really much made of a lasting impact, and then he's doing this film Rogue Trooper, which has yet to be released yet, but it's an animated movie, so maybe it's got potential there, but yeah, this was the last great thing I ever saw him do as a director. I think he did a very good job of it, too. This is definitely a much better movie than a movie like Moon is, and I like Moon, but this movie is a great movie because Jake Gyllenhaal is working his ass off in this. He's giving probably one of his best performances of his career. I love the chemistry between him and Michelle Monaghan, and you also admire the chemistry between him and Vera Farmiga. The trailers overall do a very good job of kind of not telling you what the actual movie is. You have to see the movie to see the full story here, and they're not really showing you in the trailers everything that's going on in the actual movie, because the movie itself really is very well done in keeping you on the edge of your seat. The writing in this movie is top-notch. The climax, one of the best climaxes you'll ever see in a movie. This is that kind of movie that I think a movie like Vantage Point wishes it could have been. Vantage Point wasn't a bad movie, but you could tell that Vantage Point was very much trying to do something unique and different, and a movie like Source Code nabbed it and just said, here, we're going to do it the right way, and lo and behold, that's exactly what they did here. They created a movie that is so much of a mix between one of my all-time favorite movies, Groundhog Day, mixed in with a little bit of Murder on the Orient Express. It's a film that just works on every level. The casting, the story work, the playthrough, the payoff, the visuals. Everything about this movie just works incredibly well. This is one of my favorite movies of 2011. In a year where we've had a lot of really bad movies. You know, we've had some good ones in the last month or so that have been really, really damn good. Rango, Limitless, now we got Source Code. Definitely one you should definitely check out. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the first film in the Insidious series, simply known as, well, Insidious.
Perfect home, the perfect family, the perfect life.
Good night, sweetie.
Critics are calling Insidious the scariest movie in decades.
Coming into Dalton's room, there's something in there with him.
Disturbing.
I want to leave this house.
The scariest horror film since Poltergeist.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.
From the makers of Paranormal Activity. Insidious. In theaters April 1st.
Finally, somebody is giving Darth Maul a reason to be scary in a movie. Yeah, that was always the big joke about the first Insidious movie, is that, wow, Darth Maul is in here. I guess the Phantom Menace, I guess he didn't really die in the Phantom Menace. He just came back as this mysterious creature. And yeah, this is, of course, the first installment of the Insidious series, directed by James Wan of the Saw franchise. And this is actually the third in the series chronologically. How do you pronounce this word? Chronology. I'm having trouble with words this week. I can't say the word. I can't say the word called. I can't say the word chronologically. Chronology. It's not that kind of a day today, but anyway, to the movie. The story centers around a married couple played by Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne, whose boy inexplicably enters a comatose state and becomes a vessel for a variety of demonic entities in an astral plane. You also have Barbara Hershey and also Lynn Shay in here. And this is written by Leigh Whannell, who also worked with James Wan on the Saw movies. And the movie overall was pretty damn good. I mean, the third act is kind of not a great movie, not a great climax overall, but it does end on a pretty damn good twist ending that kind of sets the tone for the future movies. But the first thirds of this movie are so damn good because they're not relying strictly on cheap jump scares. It's about atmosphere, it's about character development, sneaking around, this sense of dread all over the place. It's a film that knows exactly what it's doing to try to get you an emotion out of you. And like I said, the third act begins kind of rough, but and the climax overall is not one of the better endings to this. But to its credit, the big twist at the end I thought was really damn good. I thought it pulled it around. It's just like, okay, you won me back over a little bit. And it's funny how Patrick Wilson this was actually one of his two big horror franchises, because 2 years later, of course, he would star in the Conjuring films, and that series has become successful in their own rights. Done by the same people, too. The guys that made Insidious also did the Conjuring movies. People forget that, But yeah, this movie overall is really good. It's a very tension-filled movie, a very scary film for the most part. The scenes are so gothic and so, that sense of dread all over the place. It's just so well done, and it just really nails everything that it needs to do to get those reactions out of you. And everybody plays their parts very well here. The movie does not pull those strings for those first two-thirds. Doesn't in the third act, but of course it ends on that nice payoff at the end with the twist at the very end. But yeah, overall, pretty damn good movie. Really, really damn good film. One of the better horror movies I've seen, honestly. And of course this series would continue to grow, and it would get better from there, especially with the second movie. So yeah, can't recommend this one enough. Insidious. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Super.
Jock stole my wife.
Nothing was going right for Frank until the day
That'll do.
he decided to fight back.
Shut up, crime.
From the lunatic who directed Slither,
Don't steal! Don't deal drugs! Don't molest kids!
I could be your kid's sidekick. Ta-da!
Ray Wilson, Ellen Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon.
Face the wrath of the Crimson Bolt!
Super. Opens in theaters and on video on demand this April.
Long before James Gunn became known for his works with the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, and more recently Superman, this was his first superhero movie. And boy, was it certainly different than the movies that he would be making down the road. Like, this is a movie that is definitely the polar opposite of a Superman or the Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad. But this is definitely one of the more intriguing and very interesting superhero movies where you follow. It's the story of Rainn Wilson, who is an ordinary man who becomes a masked superhero called the Crimson Bolt, using savage violence to compensate for his lack of superhuman abilities, and sets out to rescue his wife, played by Liv Tyler, from a drug dealer played by Kevin Bacon. He also pairs up with a teenager played by Ellen Page, and also Nathan Fillion is in the movie, because of course Nathan Fillion is going to be in here. So is Michael Rooker, so is Greg Henry, so is Linda Cardellini, so is Sean Gunn. So basically, pretty much everyone that James Gunn has worked with in the past is pretty much in this movie, with the exception of Jenna Fisher, his wife at the time. But yeah, this is a movie that is so well done, and there is a lot of similarities to Kick-Ass, to the point where James Gunn himself actually learned of this from his friend Mark Millar, who was the creator of Kick-Ass, and basically said after the movie was released that he was definitely wary of the film, and he thought that sucked because Kick-Ass being made into a movie, basically he thought that meant they were going to be irrelevant, and in the end the stories are so different. Our movie's about a guy who's on his sort of spiritual quest, and he just happens to wear a superhero costume during it, but it's really about the guy and not the costume. So there are definitely very much some similarities, but mostly differences between Kick-Ass and Super. In a way, you can kind of consider this to be kind of the raunchy version of that John Ritter movie, Hero at Large, which he brought up in another interview, which, yeah, if you've ever seen Hero at Large, you can definitely see the similarities in that film as well. But it also helps that you've got an incredible cast to work with here. Rainn Wilson is great in here. Ellen Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon's pretty good at playing the villain of the film. And the movie shows no mercy when it comes to its violence levels. I mean, this is a movie that it doesn't get the proper respects because Kick-Ass came not too long after this, but no matter how you look at it, it is still a very impressively put together movie, and shows what James Gunn's potential as a director would be going forward with this, because I think not too long after this, that's when his career really began to take off with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the Suicide Squad, and Superman. Of course, very much different movies than this film was, but in terms of the tone and how those movies in particular I mentioned call for more hope in the world, while this one is just like, yeah, we're going to be as bleak as fuck, and it works to the film's advantage, and it plays it very well to a T, and it's a movie that not a lot of people really talk about, but it's a film that's definitely worth seeing. If you like what James Gunn brought to the table with Guardians of the Galaxy, Superman, and Suicide Squad, Super's definitely the one to check out, easily. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we'll take a look at the 5 films of April 8th, 2011. Another one of those weekends where, not as bad as some of the last weekends we've looked at, but there's a lot of bad stuff than good stuff here. We've got Hannah from Joe Wright, the director that later gave us Attack on Titan and also did Pride and Prejudice and Atonement. We also have Arthur, the reboot of the classic Dudley Moore movie with Russell Brand once again, starring in the title role alongside Helen Mirren and Jennifer Garner. We have Soul Surfer, the movie about the story about the girl who got her arm chopped off by a shark and basically became kind of an inspiration for surfers everywhere. We also have Danny McBride, James Franco, Natalie Portman, and Zooey Deschanel in Your Highness, the raunchy comedy from the director of Pineapple Express. And also we have probably one of the more pretentious movies I've seen in a while, Michelle Williams in Meek's Cutoff. So that should give you kind of an indication of how I feel about that movie. But we'll delve into those movies. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. Also, don't forget to hit our playlist and check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.